This is where the weather in Brittany can really be a complete pain in the ass. I'm just trying to get in these supers. You can see that there without getting wet. And get the last of these supers back in so that I can get them off to the workshop, get them put away for the year. And it's now absolutely pouring down. This is what you have, and I'm on this field. I want to get out of this field because it's going to get really soft really quickly. But I know this is only a little bit of showery rain with one front coming through. But, oh, goodness me, it's difficult. So while I've got a few seconds, I'll just update you on what's happening. I've luckily got all my nukes now to one of my big nuke yards, and most of them are in there. This year I've got a few nukes less, and by the time they've all been winterized, maybe a few less than that. Because there's always a couple that are iffy, they may not make it. They're on 1 and 2 frames of brood, they're growing well, but it just depends if they get that brood through. So they've had the treatments, the Apivar strips, they've had pollen sub, and I'm giving them an extra treatment in my syrup, which is something I'm doing to try this year. And if it works, I'll let you know what it is in the spring. But it's just something extra that may help things. Whatever happens from now onwards, the evidence is there that the treatment I put in seems to be looking really good, and they are taking down the syrup like I can't believe, which means, as I said before in my previous video, which is really good because it means A, there's enough bees in there to take the syrup down, and B, they're actually processing it. So, this field actually here is where I had a lot of my mating nukes this year, and this is a farmer's field. I don't know if you can really see it, but the farmer's field is huge, and I've got my main apiary behind this hedge, but because the farmer only cuts this for hay, I'm going to put an application in next year, I mentioned before, to ask him if I can make that area there a mating yard, because where I was at home, I've kind of outgrown it a bit, and unfortunately one of my neighbours has become really allergic to bees. And it's something you really, no matter how much you try to reduce the amount of bees that are grumpy or that are in someone's way, if you've got a family that's got kids, as much as it is that you were there before, really you can't have bees around. So what I'm doing is I'm actually reducing a huge amount of my stock at my home apiary. I'm just going to have, for a start, I'm rearranging the apiary at home so that there's no bees within a 50-meter radius of this person's house. So even if they get grumpy, they won't even make it that way to go and take it out on somebody else. And B, I'm only having stock there that I know is really, really good. So I'll just do my cell building there with my best stocks next year. And then I'll be moving my mating station to here. So to give you some idea, we've got 3 or 4 apiaries around here, so it's a perfect place for a mating station. It is in the lee of trees, but it's in the sun for most of the day. So to me, it's an absolutely perfect place, but I want to get cutting it now and get it ready so that come next year we're organised, because there's a huge amount of organisation to do. I'm overall very happy. The autumn has gone really well so far, and we're getting some rain and we're getting some cooler temperatures for the next 2 days, which is going to be a northerly wind howling. So I've been round, checked one of my home apiaries where I got a lot of nukes there with the lids that are just sitting on top, put weights on all of those. We don't use straps here, which I'm actually thinking about going down the road of, because long term it might be a help. But you know, it's just a question of making sure everything's right. I'm still feeding like mad. The feed is going down so well. I'm just delighted by that. But I've been trying to get, other stuff finished, and it's kind of frustrating because there's so many jobs to do. I could literally spend a whole day in my home apiary moving boxes, nothing to do with actually touching any colonies with bees. I've just got so much tidying up to do and making good, and I've got strimming or whippersnippering or whatever you call it, cleaning to do there. It's just endless jobs. So I'm hoping I can get the rest of this loaded in a minute, and then we'll get this off to the workshop. Then I'm mixing up another load of syrup and getting that out, and hopefully coming back here to feed these bees, because these bees haven't actually been fed yet. They've had the supers on, but they were the last to have they were the first to have their treatments, so they look really good. They look nice and clean and strong, and everything's good, and nice and grumpy today because the weather's pretty pants. But overall, they're all good. They're fine. They just need to get that last feed on. But we've got another month of giving feed. And I was talking about this in my last video, and a few people have commented on how much feed you should give. Well, like I said in my last video, if you're unsure, feed if you can do it. But obviously my operation, I've got to be careful because I can't afford to feed everything too much, because it's just like, you know, endless syrup. I've fed, I reckon, nearly 2 tons already this year, but I've got nearly 200 colonies. So, you know, and it's a really dry autumn up till now. So there's not a lot of food around, but the nectar flow is running now, but now it's going cold. We have this problem where every year you get everything right, and then suddenly the rain does come, but then the temperature drops, and that's what happened last year. But it's going to pick up again next week to 17s and 18s, which is absolutely brilliant. So it means the bees will be flying, they'll be bringing in loads of nectar. They haven't got far to go to find their nectar, and they'll be bringing that in quickly. So I'm quietly confident that we're going to have a fair bit from the ivy. But saying that, I have fed everything a lot, and I don't want any chances of anything going into the winter dry. So on that note, I'm going to go and carry on this rain and try and get all these loaded up. Right, well, that's finally loaded. Managed to get this finished when the rain stopped. You see it's about to clear through now, typically. I'll just show you this apron on about cleaning up. You can see how quickly the grass has grown and everything else. We have, I've got a weed mat down here, believe it or not, that it got covered by dirt and debris, and all the weeds are growing through it. So I'm going to come back later in about 2 hours and feed all these. I have to empty just the water out the feeders, but the bees will be fine there for about an hour or so. I will be coming back and can then come and feed all these, but then I'll come back, as I say, and I'll strim around here and tidy it up. And I'm probably even going to cut the hedge again, because you can see how much this has grown. And that's less than it was cut in the spring. It's just unbelievable how much it grows. It looks a complete mess, but within like 2 hours of work, it'll be back up to a reasonably tidy apiary, and that's what I want. I hate things looking a mess. So I've got some nukes here as well, that these will stay here till they're pretty strong. These are good. Nice strong nukes. They've taken all their feed down. I'll top up the feeders again. But loads of bees, looking nice. Anyway, let's get back to the workshop, get these sorted out, and then we're done. So back up at the workshop this morning, just starting to do the clearing up. We've got all the extractors still to clear, all the mess, but I'm nearly there with the wax melting, which is great. The supers I was collecting yesterday are away. There's still about another 40 supers to come back from being cleaned from another apiary. But overall, things are getting together. Trying to remain positive. The weather is just terrible at the moment. We've got a northerly blast, and it really is ripping through the channel, which makes me happy in some respects, because it's a good drop of rain, and we might have some better temperatures after that to come in over the next 2 or 3 weeks. But I am actually still going ahead with my pollen sub. I'm mixing up a load of pollen sub. I've got Ultra B, and in the Ultra B I put about 1 cup of per sack. This is 1 to 2 cups of apple cider vinegar, and also about 6 cups of this is organic rapeseed oil, which we use here, which is a local supermarket one, but it's a good mark. It's French. Try and buy the local stuff. So every one of my colonies is having at least one of these pollen patties on. It's not a great deal. It's not perhaps the best thing in the world, but I feel I've got to try it this year. I want my colonies going into the winter with the best possible winterage, or hivernage as they call it in French, or you know, kind of finishing off the year as I possibly can. We have got ivy, and the ivy flow is just starting now, but I'm not sure it's going to be good, because with the weather like we've got now, which is cold, they're not even flying today. It's only 11-12 degrees this morning. I've actually got the fire lit at the workshop. I was putting a little bit of heat in here, trying to keep the place warm and the damp out. And what I'm doing is, each patty I'm making up, making up just a patty just like that. So it's not huge, it's about ½ pound each one, £1/2 to £1 pound. It's not exact, but if they go through that and munch it well, and the colonies, clusters are huge when I go into the colony, I'm going to give them a second one in a week or so, but they will finish this off in a week if they're a good cluster. Without that, even 4 or 5 days. So to me, that is protein and feed into them for free. What I do is I've made it up quite loose. You can see it's quite sticky, but I like it like this. It's not too runny. It's just, and I can basically get a big dollop on the spoon. I don't have to use a spatula. I get the dollop on the spoon, put it on here, then wipe it across. And that way I can get a whole lot on the paper quickly. Then I just fold it up and put it in. Over like that. And fold the edges flat. And it's ready to go, you know. You get a little bit leaking out every now and again, one or two. But overall, it's a good way of getting, not bad for one-handed, eh? So that's a good patty. Straight in the box. I'm gonna spend the whole morning making up about 150, 200 today. We'll finish this bin. And when that's done, I'll mix up another load. I've got another 3 sacks of this stuff, and I'm well organized just to chuck pollen patties on. I'm just doing it this year because I feel that as we talk about Varroa, it's not really a 1 year thing. You don't treat the same year and expect to get good honey crops. It's a biannual thing. You've got to keep your Varroa down in the summer and autumn the previous year to have clean bees the following year. Because that's the nature of the beast. As I said before, it is what it is, and you have to work to that. And I think it's the same with protein. I think you've got to get your protein levels up in the colony and keep it strong so that when those spring bees are born in March, April, those bees that have overwintered, that were young, that were healthy, that were clean of Varroa, have got the energy and the protein in them to give their proteins to those bees as they pass over the baton between winter and spring bees. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And when I put these patties on, I'm actually flipping over the feeders because the feeders are all empty now. They're all, I've been guzzling down the syrup, which is fantastic. As I said before, I've used nearly 2 tons of syrup this autumn, but I had it. And the weather's not been that fantastic, but they've taken it down. They've got place to store it and they're using that. So that to me can only be a good thing. So I've attacked my Varroa on many aspects and I'm giving my colonies protein. So I'm hoping that I do not have winter losses. I cannot be accused this year of not looking after my bees this autumn. I've given everything I can. So that's what I'm doing here right now. I'm out this afternoon putting pollen sub on. Got some nukes to give another feed to, but I'll check the pollen sub. The nukes are just looking so much better within 2 weeks. Even though we've got this dip in cold weather, as long as we get flyable weather next week, we should have a continuation and a bit of brooding. And then obviously it's down then to looking after them for the winter. But everything's done that I can do. What else can you say, you know? So catch you again soon and be well. Bye for now.